Welcome to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hello friends, Lane Nordland here at the Cattleman's Call podcast. Thanks for joining us here today. And we're actually joined by Mr. Clay Burtrum out of Oklahoma. We were in Florida, I think, the last time you and I did a podcast, right?
Yep, that's right. We were down at the at Daytona, I think.
No, Blackbeard's Ranch.
Oh, that's right. Blackbeard's Ranch. That's right.
And we were recapping what you guys did in Daytona there at a race. So. And that's when I got to kill some hogs.
Oh, we did. We had quite the adventure out there. And I was just back there just this last November. Went down for the Oklahoma State UCF game and spent some time at Blackbeard's Ranch as well. So always a great time down there with Jim.
Well, Jim keeps saying we got to get down there, and I need to get down there, take my dad down there and have some fun and help manage some species there for him. Hey, and speaking of management, Clay, you're a cattle producer, and of course, you're also involved in the risk management business as well. There in your home state, you're vice president of Farm Data Services, and we know in today's agriculture world, we can't just run cows, we can't just feed cows. There's so many different elements that impact our daily lives, and so. I'm looking forward today to look at these different opportunities to break down and spread out your risk. And first off, let's just talk about your family operation, but also your family business as well with Farm Data Services and how they go hand in hand in serving your community and producers there in your region.
Well, Lane, let's just start with my background. I went to school at Oklahoma State University, and I went to a feed yard for about 6 years and then had the opportunity to move back home to work with my dad at Farm Data Services. And I say with, not for. That's a very key word when you come back to a family operation. What are your roles in that? Where do you land as far as what are your duties and responsibilities? And at that time, we had a stocker operation and a few cows. And so that's kind of grown over into Burtrum Cattle LLC now. We're mainly a cow-calf stocker operation located in north central Oklahoma, where we focus on stocker genetics and running cattle on wheat pasture and producing that high quality end product that we have. So let's transition that over into Farm Data Services, where I came back home about 26 years ago to work with Dad and what we do there. So Farm Data Services was founded about 44 years ago as a management accounting firm for farmers and ranchers, helping with financial records, managerial accounting, cash flows, financial statements. And when you tell people that, they're like, what is that? What does that really mean? What do you actually do? So, Lane, if you're one of my clients and you came to me, we help you sit down and do a budget. What does that look like? A budget for your operation and your balance sheets and all those kind of things. So then your monthly records come to us, whether that's a bank statement, a co-op statement. How detailed do you want to be? And then we prepare that monthly income expense report and we show you where you're at 12 months out of the year. We're extremely busy right now preparing 1099 reports, W-2s, and helping our clients know where they are from a financial standpoint, especially here at the end of the year, helping do tax preparation. We don't do tax work, the physical part of the taxes, but we help get you to that point to where you can work with the CPA. But the main part of our business is helping you know where you are. And then I take care of all the crop insurance and appraisals. We do chattel appraisals throughout, about a 3 to 4 state area, do inspections for banks and making sure their collateral is where they need it. And then we've really focused on the crop insurance areas, as we talk about risk management on today's podcast.
So what are some of these key programs, whether they're new or they've been around for a few years, that you really like helping folks out? I'm thinking Livestock Risk Protection, PRF. And again, I want to stay away from the acronyms too, because sometimes that even goes over my head. But what are some of those key things that you're working with producers and explaining to them what these programs are?
We know a lot of these programs have been around a very long time. I got in the crop insurance business for Livestock Risk Protection, the LRP program. That is why I got in it. And then our crop insurance business has evolved into doing multi-peril, Pasture, Rangeland and Forage, all the different programs that are available. Weaned Calf, the new program that's out there called CLIP, Crop and Livestock Protection, and then all with the beginning farmer, and you look at all those different things. But there's so many different programs that are available out there to help you with risk management, which is a vital and key part of any operation, whether you're just a crop farmer or whether you're a crop and livestock or whether you're just a livestock operator. You have to have all these key areas of risk management, which comes back to having an agent that you know and can trust and can work with you. And where we've been successful at Farm Data is we have the management accounting where people have their accounting records with us, but then we also couple that with the crop insurance all in one house, where it's all right there, me as the agent, and then we have the accounting where our staff and then my dad works with them on there. So it really brings it all into one focus. So when we drill down and we look at the different programs that are out there, when we talk specifically about cattle, it'd have to be the LRP program, the Livestock Risk Protection, which has been around for about 26 years, and a lot of producers aren't aware of how long it's been around, and how does it work and different things. You know, there's we can get into the weeds. There's a lot of different aspects of that program, and at Farm Data Services, we feel like we specialize in that. I work with producers, I call it from North Dakota to Florida, in all different areas and aspects, and it's not just about selling that product. It's about carrying that product through the claims process, making sure that that producer understands what he got, how can they incorporate that into their operation, whether they're a cow-calf, a feedlot, or just a stocker operator. And then you look at the PRF program, the acronym for Pasture, Rangeland and Forage program, which is the rainfall product, which has been very popular as well when we've got to encounter these events, whether it's a lot of rainfall or no rainfall, of how we do it. And then in my area, wheat pasture country, there's a product called Annual Forage, which is the forage part of that, where it also works off of rainfall. Now, we all can say that my good friend Matt Makin's the weatherman. Why does it always rain on the last 2 days of my 60-day interval and it kicks me out? That's just kind of the nature of it. But if you don't have that protection, then you don't. Then you can't compare that to. So some other products that are kind of new. There's called Clip this next year. It's not available in all states. Yeah. It's a 2-product category where you got to have 2 crops, and it's only either for you got to have weaned calf with it and a crop, or you got to have 2 crops, whether that be wheat and soybeans or soybeans and corn. And it's just kind of a buy-up program. So not all AIPs approved insurance providers, excuse the acronym there, are available and offering that this year. And then the Weaned Calf program has been around for about 2 years. Yeah. Really kind of a difficult program from an insurance agent to put your head around. To be honest, I've never sold a single policy. A couple difficulties with that. They took a crop program and tried to put it in a calf program. Yeah. Some difficulties there. You have to get approval to move calves. You tell a rancher what he can and can't do, makes it real difficult to tell them. And you can't have LRP, the Livestock Risk Protection program, if you have the weaned calf. So lots of opportunities out there with all of those different programs.
PRF has really come on the scene over the past few years. I think it's easy to understand for most folks. But as you mentioned, LRP has been around for a long time. And especially up in my neck of the woods in the northern states, it's a very new concept and program for people. Why do you think it's been difficult for folks to maybe understand what the program is? Are they cautious? What has been that experience? Because obviously folks in the middle states, it's kind of worked its way up with folks utilizing it as a risk management tool. Why do you think some producers maybe just don't know about it? Are they wary about it? And then they try it out and they see that this is a really good tool. What's your take on that?
I think it's a clear understanding. They don't understand how it works. And in the past 2 years, we've seen an explosion of agents. I call them a Dollar General agent. They're popping up on every single corner. They want to sell it. They want the quick commission, but they're not following through on the program. And that is really what is the key to any of these insurance products, is working with somebody that clearly understands. You go to any cattle meeting from your country to my country, and I promise you, if they ask how many people are selling it, there's going to be 10 guys in that room trying to sell you this one product to make that commission. But it's understanding whether that's the unborn product. What do you have to have the criteria to buy that? The stock program, can you roll it to when can you buy the next program? Can I buy out my contract, which you can't? How does this all work, and then how does it flow when you get to the claim process? When do you report your deads? How does this all work? We had a question last year in the event of the wildfires that were happening in Texas. What if I lost my whole stocker crop? Does my LRP cover that? Those are questions that you have to get answered. And it's not just about taking the 3-hour class and becoming a Dollar General LRP agent.
Oh, just say it how it is. No, I totally get what you're talking about, though. There's so many folks jumping into this business, and I think that's why it can be so confusing, because when folks are just talking at you about these programs, they maybe understand it, but it goes over my head sometimes when I'm learning about some of these new opportunities. And setting that aside, Clay, well, what are some of the differences maybe in these few programs we just talked about for risk management that maybe differ for a cow-calf operator versus maybe a stocker or feeder?
You bet. So let's just kind of break down the LRP program. So LRP, Livestock Risk Protection, is available for unborn cattle. And what are the criteria, Lane? What do you have to buy an unborn policy where you're like, well, I turned my bull out, I think my cows are bred? Well, it's when it comes to the claim time. You have to validate when those cows were bred. Did you have them preg checked by a vet? Did you buy them from the sale barn? Were they guaranteed bred? That's what you have to be able to back that up. You just can't say, well, I assume they're bred, because your claim is going to be based on where they were bred and can you back that up. If you decide not to do the unborn and you're a cow-calf guy, well, then wait till they're born. If you got a calf that hits the ground today, he's insurable. Pick that time and date when you think you're going to wean that calf or sell that calf, and then that's how you base that LRP on. It's not about what he weighs today. It's about when you think you're going to market that animal. So I'm going to give you a real-life example of my own operation. We typically sell our cattle in June and July off of wheat pasture, but I typically preg check all my cattle in September, October, once we've weaned our calves. So when you think about your marketing, I can reach all the way out to June or July and really spend a lot of money, but I also want to break up my segments to take advantage of the opportunity. So let's roll it back. I preg checked my cows in October. I did an unborn policy for when those cattle were going to be born around the January, February timeframe. They're going to hit the ground. They're probably going to weigh about 300 pounds, give or take, by that April, May. So I bought an unborn policy. That's going to expire in May. So then I'm going to roll, once it expires, then I can roll it up to another one. You have to remember with LRP, you don't have to sell your cattle to collect. And you can also sell your cattle 60 days prior to the expiration of a contract. So here we are in May, the cattle weigh 300. Now I know how many steers and heifers I've had because I've done my branding, I've done my working. Now I can roll that to an October or a November or even a January to take advantage of another time period. And then once I get to that time period, now I can reach all the way out there to my July time frame of when I might want to ship those cattle. So that's just one example. If a guy wants to do his unborns and he wants to jump all the way out there and spend those high dollar premiums, you can do that as well. So that's just one example of how to do it. If you're just a cow-calf guy, then, and you sell it 500 pounds in the fall of the year, well, then reach out there and do that fall as soon as you got most of your calves on the ground. You don't have to wait till they're all on the ground. Okay. Do them on a weekly basis. I got 10 head on the ground, or do 80% of what you think is out there. Then you can kind of tweak those numbers at any time. It's not like hedging with futures and options. You don't have to have a full load when you want to do them.
Some challenges that I definitely heard from producers this fall that we're trying to get LRPs locked in is when the market bottoms out. What is that like? What are those phone calls like when folks are trying to get that taken care of?
You can't answer the phone fast enough. The market's cratering. What do you think? None of us have a crystal ball to know what this thing's going to do. Is how many of these things you're writing? What is it going to do? And in helping them understand what they get. Do they need to buy the 100%? Do they need to buy the 90%? What are you trying to cover to keep yourself? And I use the term bankable. Okay, to keep yourself insurable and bankable to roll on to the next cycle, to move yourself forward. I put it as this. All of us either drove or flew to Nashville. We got here to this convention. We don't want to have to collect on an insurance policy because we wrecked our car on the ice. Yeah. Okay, that's what this product is. If you sold your cattle at a higher level and you paid your premium, that's exactly what you want to do. If you collected on the premium, it's just as if your house technically the cattle house burned down, then you collected on the premium and you had that insurance. So if you don't have this coverage, then you're basically saying, I don't need it, I'm self-insuring. So how comfortable do you feel of being self-insured about that? And so when the market crashed, yes, there is panic there that sets in of, okay, we got to let this thing settle out. Don't panic. Let's figure out what level works for you to buy this at that time. And that's where the education piece comes in. And we do a lot of seminars around Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas and speak at different meetings to help producers educate them. One of the tools that we use is I send out daily email prices for whatever weight class of cattle you think you might want to insure. And that can be tweaked for whatever category you want to do, whether that's the unborn, the stockers, the feedlot. So we send out daily prices so that a producer can educate themselves and see what that looks like. And then we talk through what that process is.
What is the optimal size? Have you ever, I guess, do you have to have a lot? I mean, a lot of cattle makes sense, but any size can participate in these programs, or is there a limit where it's just like, you're not running enough cattle? What's your professional take on that?
There's no small size. I got guys that insure from 10 head to 10,000 head. There is not an optimal number. The optimal number is, like I said before, how much do you feel of being self-insured? What do you feel comfortable with to keep yourself bankable? This program has evolved into lenders taking assignments on the AIPs to making sure that they have that indemnity that's going to be paid to them, to really using this tool of, look at the value of what we're spending on these cattle. I looked at some memories today of this meeting 7 years ago when we were selling 5-weight cattle for $1.45. We've put $200 on that market in 6 years. To say now we're spending $345. That was still a lot of money, and we're still only operating at the same amount of margins as we were back then. $500 or $100 to $1,000 margin on like the wheat cattle that I run. But we're dealing in so many more dollars that, a death loss hurts. But when you look at the margins that we're operating in, how are you protecting yourself and your banker to keep yourself bankable?
Well, I want to touch on USDA loans. That could be beneficial for all producers, but in particular beginning and young farmers. But we're going to take a quick pause and hear from our friends at Elanco. We're going to learn about some innovation they have for producers out making a go of it on the land. We'll be back with Clay Burtrum right after our quick message with Elanco. As we take a quick break away from our conversation with Clay Burtrum discussing risk management programs producers can utilize to manage risk on their operations, we're also going to continue that conversation on the animal health side of things and managing our operations as well. Joining us today is Dr. Jeremy Wirtz, DVM with Elanco. And Jeremy, we know that cattle parasites can cause a host of problems for cattle, from reductions in milk production, reproduction performance, and growth rate. What are some of the things that you do with Elanco to make sure that producers' bottom lines are always considered, but animal health, of course, being a top priority for producers in the countryside?
Yeah, I think it's a really good topic in discussion to analyze the risk in our producers of what they do every day. And I strongly think that as cattle producers are going to start kind of finishing up calving, they're going to set their eyes on that summer grazing period. And it's a really great time to start planning for your branding time or your grass turnout procedures and processing, and looking at any risk areas in your herd health protocols. And when we think about that developing and growing calf out on grass, one of the drivers for profitability is definitely weaning weight. And so risk factors such as like respiratory disease or summer pneumonia, internal parasites, fly burden, and can severely affect those weaning weights of those calves.
And as you mentioned, respiratory disease, how is that impacting weight gain for the lifespan of that steer or heifer?
And specifically, we've got studies in the industry that have shown that respiratory disease in calves prior to weaning can reduce those weights anywhere from 20 to 55 pounds compared to their healthy herd mates. And those calves never catch that weight back up. They're always going to be behind. And so making sure calves are vaccinated prior to going to grass with appropriate age vaccines is really, really important. And working with your veterinarian to identify what pathogens are of concern for your operation. But personally, I really like Nuplura pH+5 would be a great option for branding age calves going to grass because it's a smooth vaccine with a low endotoxin load. and it offers a 5-way viral plus manhymia combination in one injection. And it's labeled for calves older than 28 days of age. So you can use it in that branding age calf appropriately.
When we're getting ready to turn out to grass, what should producers be thinking about for internal parasites or worms this time of the year?
I always like to say when the grass is green and growing, so are internal parasites. And so the risk of internal parasites on pasture can certainly rob those producers of those weaning weight profits. And specifically, Ostertasia, also known as the brown stomach worm, is probably one of the most economically important ones to be concerned about because it causes significant beef calf weaning weight losses. Even in severe cases, it can be up to 10 to 20% in reduction. And it does this by damaging that abomasum, that cattle stomach, and reducing their appetite and hindering their nutrient absorption. Cydectin, which is the industry's #1 selling poron dewormer, controls 33 of those parasite species while also being dung beetle friendly. So it also does get that Ostertasia that I'm most concerned about.
Now, Dr. Wirtz, another component of healthy pastures are dung beetles. Can you share more about dung beetle and pasture health and how they go hand in hand?
They are basically the recycler of the fecal patty out on grass. And so they're so important to return the nitrogen and nutrients from that fecal patty back into the soil. This really also aids in destroying that environment for reproduction of internal parasite eggs, but also flies such as horn flies, face flies. And without dewormers, cow-calf producers would sacrifice more than $165 per head in lost returns. And so that's pretty significant when you start thinking of just the effect of what parasite burden can do to our livestock, let alone our cattle.
And Jeremy, as you mentioned too, there's these opportunities for producers, especially those that are spring calving. They'll be branding, getting a lot of cattle work done, turning out to green grass. Drought is also top of mind too. What are some suggestions you have for producers when managing for parasites, but also animal health in terms of green grass, but also drought all coming together too, and just the impact on animal health and just things that producers can do to keep their cattle healthy and all these different environmental factors that will plague us over the next few months with so much undecided with moisture and whatnot in the countryside.
Yeah, and if I could control the weather, boy, we'd have a really, really easy calving cycle or calving rotation. So, but I think producers really need to make sure that they're managing those cows in nutrition. I also feel that nutrition and health go hand in hand. And so I think keeping cows in good body condition score, if those cows are needing supplementation, such as a protein supplement or energy supplementation, work with a nutritionist, work with your veterinarian on what appropriate products would be available to you in your area, specific to your operation. I live in Nebraska, so we've got a lot of ethanol byproduct, such as like distillers is a great option. But I think anytime if you're supplementing protein with cows, especially adult beef cows, having a rumensin in there to maximize the efficiency of that is really, really important. And then managing your pastures. If you're in drought pastures, management strategies of maybe weaning calves early, marketing those calves separately, or supplementation out on pasture even would be effective.
Well, again, a lot of great tips for producers here this spring. And of course, for more information on all that Elanco provides cattle producers out in the countryside, just visit farmanimal.elanco.com/US to get in touch with great experts like Dr. Jeremy Wirtz, DVM, or all that Elanco provides producers each and every day to keep cattle health top of mind. And before we get back to our conversation with Clay Burtrum, we just want to mention that Elanco is a global leader in animal health, striving to help farmers and ranchers deliver a sustainable supply of safe, affordable beef through products and services that prevent, treat, and control cattle diseases while improving performance and production. Elanco is also committed to enabling the beef industry's success by providing resources to help manage health, enhance economic performance, and promote operational sustainability. For more information, visit elanco.com or contact your local Elanco representative. Well, as we come back here with Clay Burtrum from the great state of Oklahoma, Vice President of Farm Data Services and a cattle producer himself, we've been talking about spreading risk out for producers out in the countryside. And Clay, there's a lot of young and new producers coming into the business who might not truly understand USDA programs, USDA loans, and how that could be a real advantage as they get their start in the business. What's some practical advice you have for them that also includes the risk management conversation too?
Well, it's an extremely challenging time, not only in the cattle industry, but in the farming backgrounds today, if you want to get into this as a career. A lot of this relies on off-the-farm income, whether that's part-time job in town and you're farming by the headlights. But there are really some opportunities out there if you work with your USDA, the Farm Service Agency offices, especially on the beginning farmer side. Some low-interest loans to get your foot in the door, to maybe take advantage of buying some land, whether you're just starting out or maybe you wanted to expand your operation. Some advice that I would give is going in and sitting with your local FSA office with that person that's in there to look at some possibilities of what might be there. What are the loan rates so that you kind of have that education for maybe when an opportunity is presenting you to do that. One of the other big opportunities that might be in your back door is what producers may be looking to retire. Or get out of the business. On my own particular operation, I've taken over 2 older producers' operations and helped them with some tax incentives where, we basically bought their cow herd and took over their land, and then we paid that out over 5 years where we were able to expand our operation. And as a young producer, that's a really viable opportunity to help those, mentor and learn from those older producers to get your foot in the door. But when we roll back and talk about USDA, there's some awesome programs out there from the beginning farmers and ranchers with low interest rates that are set for many years. And then also, if you're a veteran, there's some VFR benefits, not only from the USDA side, but also the crop insurance side. And the big, beautiful bill that they just passed added years to that. So you might want to check with your eligibility to make sure you're taking advantage of those different programs that are available.
What is your suggestion when a producer comes in? They could be multi-generational. Maybe they're coming in and taking over that multi-generational operation. And how do you sit down with them to create that risk management plan? What is the first basic thing that you start with?
What are your goals of the operation? I talked earlier about me moving home to work with my dad in our operation. Is what is your role in the operation? And this may sound scary to some people, but do you have an exit plan? Okay, because some producers, many young producers today, don't want to have this lifestyle. They want to relax a little bit, enjoy their kids, go to the football games and basketball games, and enjoy life. This business of farming and ranching can be extremely trying and extremely hard. One key area that we've really focused on the last 3 to 5 years is this transition planning. And I don't mean getting an attorney and planning the will or the estate of who's getting what. I mean, what does the transition look like when, father, son, granddaughter, aunt and uncle come in, and how does this look as we move this to the next generation? You've got sweat equity, you've worked hard, but yet you've got siblings that don't have any part of this. How do you work this out within the operation? So one of the first questions we ask is, what are your goals for this? How do you want us to help you lay out that plan? Then you can take that to that attorney, farm business plan manager to work that out. But it's some trying times right now. And, over the next 3 to 5 years, if you look at this cattle cycle, there's going to be a lot of money available within this industry if we're smart with it.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that may pop up for folks implementing a risk management plan?
Working with the right person. Okay, knowing who that is and having those fundamental keys in place. Are you looking to expand or maybe just pay off some debt? This industry right now, like I just mentioned, is going to have a lot of cash influx over the next few years. So are you going to grow, or are you going to pay off some debt to get yourself in a better position equity-wise over the next few years? And what does that look like? Are you going to maybe buy some land that maybe you've wanted, pay off that debt to keep yourself in a more financially stable operation where you can take some time off and enjoy some life and do some better things? And then also to look for those opportunities of maybe somebody else that might be wanting to sell out in the operation.
What are some maybe emerging programs, maybe some discussions that you've heard about just different type of risk management strategies for the different operators in the cattle business or livestock sector in general?
There is so many different programs out there. Everybody wants to talk about LRP and can I roll out of it? Can I get a new program? There's just so much talk about different risk management strategies. And my suggestion is you work with somebody that really fundamentally understands the different types of programs, that is fully sound and knows that what your goals are of that operation. So, we talked a little bit about CLIP as a new program that came out. There's LRP, there's LGM, there's PRF, there's annual forage. All of these programs, along with programs at USDA, at the FSA offices, can all work in conjunction with each other. And it's, tying all those programs together to reach your end goal for your operation. And you have to know what those goals are and then develop those risk management strategies for you.
And if folks are listening to this conversation or they meet you at the Cattlemen's College presentations too, what's a great way to get a hold of you and your team as well?
We're on the web, farmdataservices.com, on Facebook, on all those social media platforms, and we're willing to help and listen and work with anybody out there that can do it. And it's just not about, hey, I want your business because I want to earn your commission. It's about helping you understand what's a goal for you. And if you're already working with somebody that's a great agent to you, then keep working with that person. If we can help you understand the fundamentals of any of these different programs, then we're more than willing to do that. And if Farm Data Services can help you with your transition planning or your cash flow information, we're willing to do that as well.
Well, Clay, we covered a lot in a very short period of time, and for more resources, like Clay said, reach out. He will help you walk through that, answer your questions as well, and like you said, make sure and work with someone trusted as well. Don't go to the Dollar Tree or Dollar General, right?
That's right.
Is that what you're saying? At least go to the Walmart Supercenter.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. Work with that person that that you trust, and that. If you don't have that person, hey, call Clay. I'll be happy to help you out.
Well, again, Clay Burtrum, thank you for joining us. Have a great Cattlemen's College presentation this week, too.
You bet. Looking forward to it.
And with that, friends, hey, thanks for joining us for this conversation about risk management. It's an important part of our operations, and if you have not explored those options, I encourage you to do so. With that, friends, thanks for joining us here on the Cattlemen's Call. I'm Lane Nordland. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattlemen's Call podcast with Lane Nordland. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.